Partnerships in Greater West Bloomfield play a key part in protecting our pollinators and helping those pollinators be celebrated by our communities. And one of the organizations behind that partnership and that educational effort is Bees in the D, who partners with West Bloomfield Parks for a number of different events and educational opportunities, including the upcoming event at Marshbank Park coming up in mid-November. Joining us on the program now from Bees in the D is Brian Peterson-Roest. Brian, thank you for being with us today.
Always great to be with you.
Glad to have you on to talk about what you got coming up, a Honey Sommeliers event happening with West Bloomfield Parks at Marshbank Park. Let's just start off with how you partner with West Bloomfield Parks, because when we think of bees and we think of Greater West Bloomfield, we're really thinking about the summer season. They're out and they're flying around. They're sometimes kind of bugging us and we're trying to swat them away. People are afraid of them in some cases, but there's a special partnership between Bees in the D, West Bloomfield Parks, and those honeybees all throughout Greater West Bloomfield.
Yeah, West Bloomfield Parks has always been such a great supporter of us and our mission. And we do at Carner Farm, which is one of their locations, the dog park and the community garden is there. We have 4 hives. And so we get to do some really cool programs with the residents there in West Bloomfield and beyond, including having Girl Scouts come out there and earn their beekeeping patch. So West Bloomfield Parks is a big part of that. And also we love to educate about all of our native bees, because you were talking about swatting and stuff like that. We also help identify the difference between bees and wasps, because a lot of times those ones we are swatting are wasp and not bees at all. But yes, we have a really unique event coming up very soon.
That event coming up on November 16th at the Lodge at Marshbank Park. That's a Saturday event. Registration is open, $110 for residents and $130 for non-residents. And Brian, it's a little bit pricey, it seems, on paper, but you're learning a lot about the process that goes into making this honey and the special processes behind the scenes that make honey kind of that specialty that it's become in recent years. So take us through it. What are people going to learn? Why is this really a unique opportunity for people right here in Greater West Bloomfield?
Yeah, so this event is one that we normally do at larger hotels, like down in the Detroit area where we're headquartered. But man, honey is so undervalued in the United States. I mean, we think of it to dip our nuggets in, but actually honey throughout the world, because of the diversity of honey and the different flavors, the different colors, the different scent of honey is actually taught. And we imported in some Italian honeys, which are known as mono honeys. Meaning that they're from usually one source or one plant. I mean, they may go to a few other plants, but that gives that honey a very unique flavor, aroma. And so we took a class about a honey sommelier. I know when you think of sommelier, you think of wine, but honey is very similar in that. And we are going to have you taste. We're going to have you smell. We're going to help you understand your taste buds. And then a lot of fun at the end. Time and Honey, which is an incredible charcuterie company, is going to make individual little charcuteries for everybody, because then you're going to actually use some of those honeys, the ones from Italy, and we will have a few of our Detroit honey, including our highly sought after bourbon honey. And you'll get to experiment and use some of the different foods of a charcuterie to mix it with that honey. And you may have a honey that you're like, wow, this honey is actually bitter. But yet when I eat it with prosciutto or a meat, it changes it completely. And so we'll talk also about how to use honey with different foods and how to even cook with that honey. So it's a very unique event because we tend to undervalue honey here in America.
Brian Peterson-Roest is with us. He is the co-founder of Bees in the D, partnering for the special Honey Sommeliers event and an educational opportunity with West Bloomfield Parks on Saturday, November 16th at Marshbank Park. And Brian, you mentioned it, that usually when you do something like this, it's being done in a different location. It's usually being done somewhere more neutral and built for these sort of business get-togethers like a hotel in Detroit. So why bring this to Marshbank Park, to one of our parks right here in the suburbs in West Bloomfield?
You know, we love, first of all, our partnership, but we want to bring it out to the different communities because we want them to understand and have an opportunity to do a very unique event like this. It's so interesting that these kind of events that are unique and allow you to learn and have a greater perspective of things, are becoming more and more popular. And the other this and some of the other values that you're getting, the price is a little bit, like you said, a little bit higher, but you also have to understand that you are supporting a nonprofit, Bees in the D, and supporting the West Bloomfield Parks. And that allows us to do even more programs, especially some educational programs with the schools and with the youth there in West Bloomfield.
And take us through that element too. The educational element, of course, going to be part of this special event, but it's something that your organization, especially in your partnership with West Bloomfield Parks and our local school district, really focuses on. And when we think about this time of the year and all that we're hearing about, hey, maybe leave your leaves out there and protect the pollinators, we're not thinking really about bees when it's in fall, when we're in Halloween season and Thanksgiving coming up. But our bee population, our pollinators, are still very hard at work right now. How can people in our local communities like West Bloomfield still support our pollinators when we're maybe a little bit out of their main season to shine?
It's very tempting at the end of the year to just get everything cleaned up. You know, you want your yard looking immaculate, cutting down even some of the flowers that are still blooming. Those last few flowers that are blooming, you know, the goldenrod, the asters, they are a crucial food element for our pollinators, especially going into the winter season. Most pollinators, like our bumblebees and a lot of our butterflies, they will go down in the leaf debris for hibernation. And so that's why it's important to leave those leaves or in hollow sticks. Our honeybees are a very unique species. What they do is the winter bees have emerged. They're still honeybees, but they're designed to vibrate and create friction. And that friction keeps the queen at a balmy 90 degrees all winter long, but that takes energy. And that's why they store honey all summer long in their hive, so they have food to sustain them. But luckily for our sake, especially if you have a sweet tooth like I do, the bees produce too much honey or more than enough honey, and so we as beekeepers can then harvest. But we do leave about 80 to 100 pounds of honey in every hive for those bees to live on. And so now in the off season, this is a chance for us to learn even more about the bees and do some unique things, like learn about the uniqueness of honey and how, depending on what they are foraging on, that flavor, that color, that aroma of that honey is completely unique due to where they were foraging.
Brian Peterson-Roest with us from Bees in the D. Again, on your screen, you're seeing their flyer for their Honey Sommelier Tasting Event, a special event happening, bringing honey from hives like ours right here in West Bloomfield at Corner Farm over to Marshbank Park Saturday, November 16th. At Marshbank Park. You can get more information by scanning that QR code that's on your screen as we speak on civiccentertv.com. And in this interview on demand later on to learn more about this, it's happening on a Saturday evening, 6 o'clock to 8:30 p.m. $110 for residents, $130 for non-residents. Registration already underway, wbparks.org. Brian, before I let you go, we know that you're all over the Metro Detroit area and in the city with hives from Bees in the D. And in terms of all of our cities, our urban and suburban areas where your hives are located, give us the overview from the summer of 2024. West Bloomfield, good bee town,
Wow.
Good honey town?
This has been an incredible year, especially for honey production. I think a big part of that was we did get that rain, but it usually came at night. So the bees could still forage throughout the day, but all of our vegetation was very lush. And so, yes, our bees were looking great, especially the ones there at Carner Farm in West Bloomfield. It was just a pleasure to take Girl Scouts in. We also do Beekeeper for a Day with West Bloomfield Parks and show them these incredible insects and how productive they have been this year. So I'm just in the final things of just winterizing the hives, just giving them a little bit of help going into the winter season. So that we can, again, before it'll be here before we know it, spring's going to be back and those bees will start building up again and we get to start the process all over again.
More information on Bees in the D and their hives all throughout our communities and the local area can be found on beesinthed.com or by following them on social media at Bees in the D. Brian, thank you so much for your time as always.
It's always great, Tyler, to be with you. And I can't wait to meet the people that are excited to learn about honey in a way that you never imagined before.